Okay, I mentioned the births of out of wedlock, which means the child bearing or the baby births outside of the former family. So these were not very popular. And so as you can see, the only 4% in the Canada or other countries. But as you can see, many countries. So the Chile, let's compare it's the latest one. 2014, in the our world in data, which is the latest one, the Costa Rica, about 70% of the new births are happening outside of the formal marriage. So Italy, and these are the lowest in the European country. The Greece, no, sorry about that. The Greece, the lowest one. The Japan, 2.3. If I add, so maybe then if I add the South Korea, where I came from, oh, I don't have that. Sorry about that. The Japan, which has the lowest one, and maybe the United States. Okay, so let's compare two countries. Wow, yeah, different, so different. Anyway, the difference was not that high in the beginning of this period of time, but it gets more and more. And in these days, not these days, but in the 2014 in the United States, around 40% of the newborn babies were out of the wedlock. And also this data in 2011 from the 2016, 16, many of the European countries would have the very so high levels of the rising share of the newborn babies outside of the former marriage. So, out of wedlock, I cannot say this is naturally very good or very bad, but there would be some element of social issues because the growing diversity in the family living arrangement compared with the two parents household, the single parenthood would be associated with the higher chances of the poverty, and in many cases, the family dissolution, including the widowhood and the bereavement and the separation or divorce, these are associated with the high stresses and high levels of the deprivation of the economic resources. So these are, I cannot say which is the very best or which is good or not, but this type of the decline of the family is still very naturally associated with the declines of the functions of the family we had in the traditional formats of the family. So I cannot conclude with this is a very positive trend or the negative trend, but there are the increased levels of the inequality because there are still on the proportions of the two parents family, and as long as they are not very bad, they are not very bad situation, such as very frequent on the domestic violence in the family or something, the two parent family are more likely to have higher income compared with the one parent family or the no parent family. So, so the decline of a family is a very big issue. The share of the household in the single parent, we can see that these are getting higher and higher. And the estimated median age of first marriage, these are increasing more and more. It means that people are marrying on the later and later. So average age of the woman at marriage, which means it's increasing more and more. So this is very clearly associated with the decreased fertility, as we could see in the last week as the first topic of the last week. So because of the biological clock, we have the limitation of the time. For example, the reproduction, the rate, the possibility of the reproduction is declining more and more at the later 40s of the woman. So if the individuals in the United States married later than 35 or even 40, there will be very decreased chance of the fertility in their life. So child marries. So this is the opposite direction compared with on the later marries. On these are very opposite direction because it's the child marries. So the child marriage, these are very strongly prohibited in the United States. But still, there are some countries that the childhood marriage on the younger than some age, usually the 18 or sometimes it's a 15 something, the child marriages are still very prevalent in some of the countries. Not a lot. So again, I would ask you that you may want to marry later, or you may want to have the start a cohabitation with your partner later or now. But in terms of the formal marriage, do you think it was the family decision or the individual decision? In most cases, you'd say that the union formation or the marriage is your individual decision based on the very romantic love and the physical love or the sexual relationship or others. But that this norm as this terminology as the love as the primary source of the couples, that was not very prevalent because in the Romeo and Juliet, the Pride and Prejudice, which are the very, very classical novels in the United States here, and many of other countries, Europe, in the United Kingdom, and other countries, on the love between the couples. So love on the couples, these were not the primary source of the formation of the marriage because it was the family decision. So the what women want and what men want in the about 100 years ago and these days. So the primary resources, the trait that decline in importance, dependent character and others. But we can see that in the very general trend in the love summarization, the love and the individual relationship of these has become more and more important in these days. So again, the decline of the family is happening as a part of the rise of the non-traditional family. So the traditional family is again two adults, in most cases, two heterosexual adults in the younger age in most cases. But in these days, the single parenthood and others, these are increasing more and more. And again, many of the homosexual marriages, these are happening more and more. So so I will add a link of this website, but these are the average rate of marriage, and you can change from the chart to the map, and you can change the year, and you can see the very, very detailed information on that. So if you need to, in case you need to use this type of information for your quiz, the weekly quiz or the extra credit assignment or the final exam, you can just use those triggers as the menus to see more details. Okay. All right. So in terms of the marriage, the trends in the United States is decreasing more and more. So on the serial monogamy means so everyone, not everyone, so most people start on their union as the cohabitation or the marriage, but in case eventually they separate, sometimes these are what we say the union dissolution, and then they would not stay in the separation or the widowhood or others, and because they started their another or your new union formation again. So this is what we say the serial monogamy, because in the United States, the one by one, so one-to-one relationship, I mean one adult by one adult. So this is not forming about among three adults together or the four adults together to form a union, but this is about the monogamy with the two adults in once. Anyway, the higher rates of the United States would have the higher marriage rates compared with the other developed countries. Usually we say the Western countries, but still the higher rate of the divorce and the remarriage rate. So very, very general trend in the contemporary society. So again, the marriage and this thing. So the family is a very, very important resource for the individuals within the family. For example, the babies. So babies cannot choose their family. So they are born in the family and based on their life course. So the childhood, infant period time, this is childhood, and the young adulthood and the adult life. So the resources from the family, the parental resources, these are very, very primary source of their education and others. But in case there are external shocks, such as the financial crisis or the disease like COVID-19 or the macro situation like a war situation, for example, then these will impact on those relationships. So cost of the health diet in some countries like the United States and others, there are higher a proportion of the payment per meal. But the share of the population that cannot afford a healthy diet, so these are the higher proportion in the African countries. Usually, the higher proportion of the poverty. All right, so cost of the diet in the median income. So the family, so within the family again, so these are the healthy diet and the resources for education and other money investigated for the health, the medical uses and others. These are also very primary resources again. But within the family, so if the parents would be very poor, they would have a very low proportion they can spend on the children's education and a healthy diet and the tuition for their college and others. So that's why in the family is a kind of the meal generating or the increasing the levels of the inequality, because most of the inequalities we know about, these would start from the family. So okay, so these are most of the very basics of the family issues. All right, thank you very much. And I will add one more class activity so that you can review on those activities or the further information as a part of the investigation for your further learning. All right, thank you very much and see you in the next video.